Hello there. Welcome back to Halloween Horror Month. I'm Scotty. You're not. I rearranged the schedule. At first, this was the only break before I go into a trilogy of films. Well, I'm adding a couple more to that. Because I just did a franchise. I felt like I was stuck in limbo with that franchise. Which is why I'm not doing the ninth configuration yet. So, we're doing a little one-offs, and I'm starting with a little hidden gem. From 2004, The Hollow. It was released to... It was a directed to TV and video film for ABC Family back in 2004. The cast is actually a pretty good cast. You have Kevin Zegers, Kelly Cuoco, Judge Reinhold, Stacy Keach, Nick Turturro, Eileen Brennan. It's just... And, of course, Nick Carter, which is the reason why I watched it back then, because this may have escaped a lot of you, but I'm a massive Backstreet Boys fan. I have been since back in the 90s when I had the cassette tape for the first Backstreet Boys album that came out, and then I started getting CDs. At one point, I had all the CDs up to This Is Us, and I wasn't taking very good care of them. So now I have This Is Us, which I think I need a new copy of anyway. And I have the first two, and then I have the two newest ones, In a World Like This, and DNA, and then the Essential Backstreet Boys. I remember, and this is going off a tangent, I bought, because I had the first three, and then they released the Greatest Hits Chapter 1, which they never did a Chapter 2, I don't think. Maybe they did. I don't know. I don't remember. But, and that had one new song on it, Drowning. And so I convinced my mom to let me buy the new one. But at first she's like, let me see that. These are all songs you already have on the other CDs. I'm like, yeah, but there's one new song. One new song? Really, do you need to do that? Yeah. Well, it is your money. That's right, my money. Anyway, enough with that. This was 2004. I was a junior in high school, excuse me. I was a junior in high school, and yeah, because this would come out October of that year. So I was a junior in high school. I remember this was like one of a few, much like Dukes of Hazzard, the beginning. It was advertised as a ABC Family original, but they were just taking these direct-to-video movies and doing their own. Unlike Dukes of Hazzard at the beginning, though, it doesn't have an unrated cut. It just has an R-rated cut. Because you could tell watching this on ABC Family, they were cutting out things like words like horny or whatever word Erica says to Karen in the hallway. The story is a play on the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, which I've always been a fan of since I was a kid. I watched everything. The Disney movie, which I have, but I didn't want to dig for. The Wishbone episode, which also had a book, which I have, which I also didn't want to dig for, because I don't know what the hell that would be. The TV show that came out on Fox that greatly exaggerated a lot of things, which I'll talk about a little bit. I eventually want to talk about that show as a whole, I should say, not in a whole. And this, as well as many other versions. Are They Afraid of the Dark version, called the Legend of the Tale of the Midnight Ride. I just love all aspects of the story. And this takes one of those, and I always thought this was similar to the Are You Afraid of the Dark episode. I haven't seen that in a while. Tale of the Midnight Ride. It's very similar. Down to the fact that I think the main character's name in both is Ian. Or at least there is an Ian in there, I think. But anyway, so the story here is that it's Halloween. Ian Cranston and his family have moved to Sleepy Hollow, and now the Headless Horseman has come back. That's the basic story. There is a sort of, when it comes to characters, there's a character element to it that can, with Ian being new in town, he starts catching the eye of one of the girls that are there. In this case, Karen, whereas in the story it was Katrina Van Tassel. this catches the ire of the other man who covets her, Brody Vanderveer, which is an obvious, you know, nod to Bram Bones, or Abraham Van Brunt, as the TV series would call him. And in the TV series, Bram was the Headless Horseman. Yeah, nice twist there. Spoiler alert, by the way. Sorry, I should have said that. But yeah, there was a nice twist on the story. I like that. But he's always been known as Bram Bones in any other one, but in that one they gave him a full name, Abraham Van Brunt, which is... yeah, they have that sort of thing where it's Ichabod and Katrina, and they have a little courtship going on, but Brody, aka Bram, doesn't like it. It's kind of getting in his face about it. Now, I'm not gonna... There's been a lot of speculation, even in this movie, as to what happened to Ichabod after the events of the movie, the book, whatever, right? And with the most logical being that, you know, for some reason, the Headless Horseman couldn't cross the bridge, and that's what defeated him, and Crane, Ichabod, just got the fuck out and left. He left, never came back. No one ever saw him again. He disappeared. Right? The TV show goes a different way, which instead of this whole crossing the bridge thing, he's in a war and they both die, but he ends up in the future thanks to witchcraft. And then the Headless Horseman goes with him because they're linked in that version. Yeah. But let's make no bones about it. Everyone knows what really happened, right? Bram killed him. Bram Bones killed Ichabod Crane, stuffed his body somewhere where they can't find him, buried it deep, deep, deep in a hole where they couldn't find him, and then they just said he disappeared. That's very obvious what happened. It's obvious what happened. It makes perfect sense, right? Think about it. Isn't it Bram who tells the story of the Headless Horseman in the story? Isn't that what it is? And then it just so happens to be that Ichabod runs into said Headless Horseman and comes after him. It makes sense that Brahms would tell the story as a cover so he can murder Crane, stuff his body in a hole somewhere so we never find him, and then just to spread the word that it was the Headless Horseman. Makes sense. Here we are almost 8 minutes into this, and I've yet to talk about the actual movie. This movie aged a little bit bad. It's a little bit, it's very 2000s. Very 2000s TV film, you can tell. But I don't think there's anything terrible about this movie. Some of the acting, especially from a musician who's in a boy band who has blonde hair, can be rough. Okay, enough. Nick Carter can't act to save his life. I'm sorry, I don't remember him being in anything else but this. His brother Aaron, on the other hand, has been in other stuff. He was in Fat Albert. He was in that pop star movie that he came out with. Yes, I watched it, read it from the library a couple times. I kind of want to talk about it on this channel, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know how many views I'm going to get with this. So, again, I don't care about the views. I'm just doing it for me. But he had a little bit of an acting career, Aaron Carter did. But I don't remember Nick Carter doing anything but this. Right? But this was in the wake of Justin Timberlake starting to do acting, right? In 2000, he did Model Behavior, and so Nick Carter's like, I can do that. No, you can't. I mean, he's not completely terrible, but he is the worst actor in this movie. That counts Rob, whose actor is also not very good, but he's not in it for very long. And the actress who plays Erica is fine. She's fine, but... well, she's not in the movie that much either, so I can't really say much. But, you know, you have your good actors. Judge Reinhold is great. Kevin Zegers is good. Stacy Keach is just the best. He's the best in this. He's going full on with the whole oldie time talk. Although it is confusing because sometimes he uses ye, sometimes he uses you. Which one is it, old man? But he is great. He plays Klaus von Ripper, a descendant of the guy who let Ichabod stay in his cabin or something. and he manages the graveyard. He's a gravekeeper, basically. And he's the one who's warned people that the Horseman's coming back. Now, there are obvious comparisons to Halloween. And I think that was on purpose because in the movie, Ian is going to record a John Carpenter film marathon that they have on playing on Halloween. There is a scene where the parents are there. They do this thing where the dad's a jerk and wants the son to be like him. You know, like that dad from Freddy's Dead. Be like me. Be like me. He's that guy. You know, he wants him to play football. But no, he wants to fence. What school has fencing? What school gives teenagers these swords? I know they're not actual swords, but they can still get hurt, right? Still dangerous. But he wants his son to play football, right? So he's sitting there with his wife, and his wife... Okay, so here's the thing that I caught this time, because I used to record a lot of shit on the VHSs back in the day. I had a thing. I have a whole bunch of them stored away somewhere. But anyway, they're sitting there. He wants to turn the channel. What? The mom says no. Then the doorbell rings, and it's trick-or-treaters, so the mom goes to check it out. When he comes back, he's watching something else. I know how VCRs work, especially back in 2004. If you are recording something, you cannot change the channel. Now, I know there is a cable box, but not every home had the cable box in 2004. Now, you have to have it digital. There's sometimes you just had it through a thing, like a cord into your TV, and that was it. So most likely, it's a scenario where it is recording, and you cannot change the channel when it is recording. Which means he stopped recording and changed the channel. What a dick. Right? And I'm not gonna, I don't want to go into it too much, but what family only has one VCR? You tell me this guy doesn't have his own VCR in his own room with his own TV. I did. And we were gotta be about the same age here, right? I mean, I know they're probably 20-year-olds playing teenagers. I mean, I know for a fact Kevin Zegers was, because he was in Smallville the year before this. He was on Smallville the year before this in an episode, which we'll talk about when I get to season 3. It's the first episode of Smallville I ever saw, as a matter of fact. But Magnetic is the name of the episode, and yes, it's the Lana Folks episode. And anyway, because everyone's gonna fall in love with Lana, right? Anyway, so as they're talking, they show the TV screen, and I tried rewinding it, pausing on the TV. I tried doing it on my phone. I cannot figure out what movie they're watching. The most I can surmise from the way it looks is The Thing, but I'm not 100% sure. I can't really tell. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't really, what it is. It wasn't really a John Carpenter movie. Shell out the bucks to Universal for The Thing, But to that point, there's a very Halloween thing. There's an old man trying to tell the cops and the law that, evil is coming and stuff like that. And, and so there's that, but nobody believes him, that sort of thing. He's warning everyone. Dr. Loomis, essentially. So that makes Ian Laurie Strode, in a way. But it works, right? So the reason that the Headless Horseman is after Ian, we find out, is that Ian is the descendant of Ichabod Crane. Yes, in this world, Ichabod Crane was real. Knew Washington Irving, who was also from Sleepy Hollow for some reason, and that he wrote the book about him. And in this version, Ichabod survived, left, and started a family. Richard Cranston was the first one with the name change, and then a couple generations later, it was Cranston. Cranston, meaning Crane's son, was changed to Cranston, and yeah, so now they're back in Sleepy Hollow for some reason, and I find it absolutely freaking stupid that Dave wouldn't know. I understand Ian wouldn't, but when Klaus gets to the house and he starts yelling to the dad that, everything's going on. So what's going on? The Headless Horseman, what? And he's like, well, because we're in the sense of Ichabod Crane. And the dad should have given it a look like he already knew. Parents, they know things the kids don't know. I think he should have already known. which is what that would have worked to his character too. He wants Ian to be more like him, to get away from not watching scary movies, not be connected to that, not do the spooky stuff. He wants him to be like him, so that the Headless Horseman possibly won't come after him. But I didn't do that. There's also another facet that I thought about watching this. Another way they could do this is the beginning of the film. They have Ian telling the story of the Headless Horseman of Sleepy Hollow, and Brody, that's Nick Carter's character, and two others, Scott and Amber. And yes, every time I said Scott, I said what? Because, By the way, I hate it when people pronounce T's in names. I just did that by accident. I hate it when people pronounce T's on names. Because someone's going, Scott! I'm like, don't do that. Don't pronounce the T's at the end of a name, okay? Don't be like, Scott. What? Don't do that. Don't do that. That's stupid. It's annoying and it gets on my nerves. Okay? Okay. But he takes off with Scott and Amber into the graveyard, right? Joseph Mazzello is Scott. And he starts, being all creepy with the story, and he starts this rant about how people need to fear the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and it's become all about kids' stories and cartoons or stuff like that, and that, people should be afraid when 3 people go into a graveyard and only one comes out. And I thought about it, I'm like, he should have done that rant at the graveyard, or at the story. Went off, done the story, and then he gets kicked out, and he asks Karen to go with him. She says no, and the other 2 go with him. They go to the graveyard. Scott and Amber don't make it out. They get killed off screen. They off screened. There's not a lot of good kills in this. It was a made for TV movie, basically. You couldn't do much. I mean, you could do more. You do see some gore, which they couldn't do, which is some hilarious stuff. Because there's a scene where Erica gets killed. She gets her head chopped off. You kind of see it here. And then when Brody comes up, he looks at it and he goes, whoa, that's kind of real. And then they show it. Oh, it is real. On the TV, though, he goes, oh, it looks real. It doesn't cut. Oh, it is real. Okay, that's just stupid because it doesn't make any sense. You don't show what it looks like. So how is... I don't know. And then later with the cop's body, when he gets decapitated. Yes, they're all decapitations because Headless Horseman wants a head, right? And to that Michael Myers end, he is stacking up the heads in a display thing at the graveyard. So, positioning stuff like Michael Myers did in the original. So there is that kind of connection there, There's also some weird choices. Like there's a scene where there's a hallway scene, which you could say, just put this on a CW. Or WB as it was at this time. Excuse me. But it's where Ian and Karen are walking down the hallway, like they're talking. And then she's like, what? She's like, oh, you come to the pep rally. He's like, no, I don't really do that. She goes, well, walk me to first and we'll talk about it. So as they start walking, their dialogue is now faced out for a voiceover from the PA system of the school. And then it comes back when they get to the classroom, and I'm like, I just found that to be a weird choice. Like, why don't we hear them talking? Why are we listening to the PA? It's about the hayride, but I had that set up for later, but I don't know. We get an Eileen Brennan cameo, who I know is the lady from the orphanage. From New Adventures of Pippi Longstocking movie that I grew up watching. That's what I know her from. She's been in other things, but that's what I know her from. And she's basically playing the same kind of character. Lady bitches and complains about everything. She's a critic, I think, but, yeah. Brody is, of course, the Headless Horseman. Now, I have a logic issue here, okay? So, Ian... At the beginning of the movie, Ian says he's going to drive Karen home. They talk about, she touches his thigh, basically saying, come on, And then they talk about going to have coffee. Klaus shows up, and I love there's this running joke where everyone thinks he's drunk, and he has to just yell out, "I'm not drunk!" Because he keeps talking about this stuff, and like, oh, someone's in the sauce again. I am not drunk. He has to keep saying that. It made me laugh my ass off throughout the movie. Every time he has to say, "I'm not drunk. I tell you, I'm not drunk." It just, like I said, Stacy Keach is the best thing in this movie. He's fantastic. Anyway, so he decides he's going to take Klaus home. Brody just so happens to show up. Sans car, by the way. He's like, "Well, I'll take Karen home. Like, well, you let young Vandersnot take her home and we can teach her, we can talk." But he keeps calling him teacher. Now, he explains this to Ian, but he keeps calling him teacher to everyone else as well. No one else ever asked why he keeps calling him teacher. Ian does. He explains it because he's related to Ichabod Crane. But nobody else ever asked him, why do you keep calling him teacher? Nobody ever does. Hey, teacher. Teacher and I gotta go deal with this thing. No one ever. By the way, props to Kaley Cuoco for doing the entire finale dressed up in the face paint and the makeup and the dress, the Weeping Bride or whatever she's supposed to be. Which, where does that come from in the legend? Is that supposed to be Katrina, who never got her bride? I just assumed after Brom killed Ichabod, he stole her. Which, yes, that is a big part of the TV show too, is that he was jealous, which is why he became the Headless Horseman. Although if you go, I don't know, it's different. He was a soldier there too, so I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, Klaus. So back to what I was talking about. So he decides to take Klaus home, and that Brody is going to take Karen home. Now, we never see him have a car ever. So I don't know how he got there. Here's the thing, though. If you don't see his car, you can assume he walked her home. But here's the case. Ian does have a car, and he takes Klaus back home. And then he says he's running late after Klaus was trying to tell him about Ichabod Crane's relation or whatever. He goes to leave. He drives off. He gets to this gate that's always locked. And then that horseman-like figure shows up, and it's Brody. So, three things. Either he has a car that no one saw, and he drove her home quick and came back. Or he walked her home, which in case he shouldn't be there. Or he put her on the horse and took her home. Which, I don't know. By the way, he calls his horse Old Carter. Yeah, Carter. I bet he made that up on the spot. Otherwise, where'd they come up with that fantastic name? But this is where they get into, that gate's always locked. And later, he's forced to break it with the hayride truck, and the horseman gets out. There's no other way out of the graveyard. There's no, except for the bridge. We're going to talk about that bridge because there's something, yeah. But anyway, like, there's no other way out of there yet. Like, the only other way out for the horseman is the gate. There has to be. People leave there all the time. The only way that horseman can get out is the gate. But he gets out and he goes after Ian's dad because he's also Crane. And that's what everything, goes, okay, so the two go together and they're just kind of doing it. The finale of this is not very good. The climax, because they got it's in the dark, first of all, which works because it's Halloween. It's, I think it's supposed to be like that, but like they have flashlights for light. Usually, when you're shooting a movie in the dark, you have some kind of lighting so you can see what's going on. They didn't have that, so you just have flashlights. Somebody thought, we could just use the flashlights. No, you can't really see shit to a point. At least at this point, when they're looking around. And, it looks as if Ian's dad gets killed, but he's not. He's just knocked unconscious. And then the horseman goes to kill him with his sword. He's like, hey, you're going to knock out a Crane when he's asleep. You're going to kill a Crane when he's knocked out. Come on, come after me. And so he chases him, and he chases him to the bridge. He gets to the bridge, he turns around, he's looking around, he sees him nowhere. And then magically, the horseman is behind him. Now, from the way that Ian is positioned, the only way the horseman could have got to him is if he crossed the bridge, which we know he can't do. And in a few seconds, we'll find out that if he touches the bridge, he'll be set on fire. So how the hell did he get behind him? Huh? Also, how he defeats the horseman here is a callback to earlier when he's in fencing class. He does an illegal move where he flips his opponent over, where he says that is illegal and you'd be disqualified. However, I do love creativity. He used that was there to set up where he flips the horseman onto the bridge, sets him on fire. Everybody comes, they celebrate, they go to leave, and then we have a cliffhanger that makes no sense in hindsight, because when the movie starts with something that I thought, wait a minute, it makes no sense. So everyone's leaving, and Klaus is there. He hears a noise, turns around, and we assume that the horseman gets him. However, that doesn't make any sense, because the beginning of the film is narrated by Klaus. Narrated as if it's after the fact. After these events happen. He's narrating from the future about these events, which means the horseman didn't get him. So, what the hell was that? The sequel tease, which we never got. I would have loved a trilogy. You know? Trilogy of sorts. I don't know, but we never got anything. Which is great because ABC Family like to do their own little trilogy stuff. They had the All Pair series. They had some other things. I think one of the Home Alones was an ABC Family thing. Maybe not. I don't know. But they had their own stuff going on at ABC Family, and this could have worked. I really liked one sequel. It could have worked. It could have. I don't know how many people watched it back then, but I just remember on the VHS copy, there would be pop-ups in the corner for Who's On It Anyway, or Smallville, which was now airing reruns on the channel. I remember that. But yeah, that ending makes no sense if you remember that the movie starts with Klaus narrating the events as if they already happened. So he obviously survived that. But they wanted a cliffhanger ending. Oh my God, what's happening to Klaus? And then if you really think about it, wait a minute, didn't he narrate this movie? He was narrating the events as if they had already happened. Wait. Yeah, I don't know. But I still enjoy this movie. I'm going to give it the middle of the road. It's not... I never thought it was going to get like a top tier rating for me, but it is... I think it's still a fun watch. I had a lot of fun watching this. The acting, for the most part, Nick Carter, is good. But, you know, the one line that I always laugh at from Nick Carter is when the horseman chases him and he goes on the other side, runs to the other side of the bridge. He's like, yeah, take it back to mama. I always laugh because I have no idea what the fuck that means. But take it back to mama. I'm pretty sure Nick Carter ad-libbed that and they kept it in the movie. And that was the one spot of his acting that I actually liked. The rest is, he's fine, but you could tell he's not an actor. Like, look at Justin Timberlake's role in Model Behavior. It's not a full role. He has a few scenes, but he's not a main character. He's like a love interest. He has a few lines, but it's his first acting role, so you could tell it's a little, you know. And if you want, you know, the idea of someone being on camera, watch the 1998 Disney Channel in concert with NSYNC. And look at how awkward they are on camera. Especially Justin Timberlake and Joy Fatone. All of them were kind of, you know... Well, I guess JC was good on camera and so was Chris. But the other one, like... Lance looks a little nervous. JT, Justin Timberlake, acts like he doesn't think he should be there. And then Joey is also nervous. You know... So they've been on camera, they've been in stuff, but like, as acting, you know, you see pop stars doing acting. Nowadays, Disney has shaped actors who also sing, and so they kind of combine that. But you have musical stars like you have Mariah Carey doing that Glitter movie. Britney Spears did that Crossroads movie. No, don't expect me to do a review series on pop star movies. Although pop star, not the one with Andy Samberg, the one with Aaron Carter, I might do eventually. But yeah, this is the middle of the road for me. So what are your thoughts on The Hollow? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'm Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.